Hi Taurus and Taurus rising, this is your February 2017 forecast. So February is said to be quite a tumultuous month in some ways, and this is because we've got two eclipses happening. We've got a full moon lunar eclipse happening in Leo in your 4th house on the 11th of February, and a new moon solar eclipse happening in Pisces in your 11th house on the 26th of February. So eclipses carry the signature of change, and often circumstances or events can collude in such a way that, there's a radical course direction or changes need to be integrated. Things like eclipses can also act as light bulbs, where what was in the background or hidden comes into the foreground. So, hidden things have a way of being purged and coming to light. And because change can be either upsetting or liberating at times, these things can be a little bit tricky to negotiate. We've also got Mars moving to square Pluto and conjunct Uranus, which can lead to aggravate those sudden upsets and cause corrections and changes or dramatic events. So challenging circumstances can arise. We've also got Jupiter opposing Uranus, magnifying things, making things more exaggerated and pronounced. So there's always a tendency to go overboard with these kinds of oppositions. So let's look at what else is happening this month. We've got the Sun in your 10th house sector until the 19th of February. And this is the area of career and reputation, where you're more publicly visible. It's where your skills and talents tend to be more showcased, and mistakes can come to light at this time. So you'll want to work with more diligence because you are in a more visible placement here. There's more public scrutiny. There's also a chance to showcase those talents and skills, and career objectives and goals can, you can do some course changes and corrections at this time. So definitely a chance to be more diligent professionally, more visible professionally, so you can find more duties and responsibilities hoisted onto you. Because the 10th opposes the 4th house, there can also be a focus on our interaction with our parents or family. From the 19th of February, the Sun moves into the 11th house, and the 11th house is the house of groups, friends, hopes and dreams and objectives. So it's a very sociable house, and because it's also the house of dreams and objectives, it can show teamwork, cooperation, leaning on friends for support, using your social networks to advance. When the Sun is in the 11th house, it tends to be a more sociable placement, so there's more interactions with friends and groups. You may choose to join a group, align yourself with something bigger than yourself. But either way, a lively social agenda, and you'll want to use those social platforms and connections to further your own hopes, dreams, and objectives. So your ruling planet Venus is going to be in the 12th house with Mars and Aries, and Venus is quite an easy transit through the difficult 12th house. Venus, of course, acts with a lot of discretion in the 12th. So sometimes, especially with Mars here, this could show a secret infatuation or a relationship that you're not yet willing to make public because, as I said, Venus will act with discretion here. So keeping things a bit secret. Venus in the 12th, along with Mars, also very good for creative work, behind the scenes. With Mars in the 12th, it's a very good time for developing things privately that you want to launch when Mars goes into your 1st house. So Mars here, the ego energies can be a little bit frustrated. You may feel like you're not getting enough credit for what you're doing, which is why it's good to work alone where possible and really develop things that you want to launch later. On the other hand, Mercury is going to be in your 10th house, so your mind and talents in terms of communication skills are going to be on the job. So you'll be able to have lots of discussions professionally. It's also, Mercury in the 10th is a good placement for learning new skills or mastering new skills, professionally speaking. So you may want to undertake a course of study that's going to help you advance professionally. It's also a good time or placement for Mercury to have discussions with superiors, authorities, bosses in terms of how to get ahead professionally. And really having those discussions, like what can you do to get a raise? How can you get ahead? Communications can come to the fore, generally speaking. So sometimes you can find yourself saddled with more paperwork than usual when Mercury is in this placement. But on the whole, a very good time for new skills in the workplace and learning new skills to advance. So from the 26th of February, Mercury will be moving into your 11th house. So again, the social calendar, so Mercury here, enlivens discussions with friends. There's more interactions with friends and groups, more discussions. So group affiliations and ties strengthen. So this is really where your mind is at. So strengthening those group ties, strengthening those friendship ties, having discussions and activities with friends and groups. And also really developing your ideals and dreams and objectives. With Mercury, your mind is on these things. So you're able to think of ways to advance those goals and objectives, in tangible, concrete ways. So let's look at what else is happening this month. We've got a new moon starting off the month, actually in January on the 28th. So this new moon is going to be in your 10th house. So again, it's going to be about constructive progress in the career sector for you. So this is a good time for making new business plans and goals. It's good for career course changes. So the next 2 weeks, you're really running with that energy. So self-discipline, very important at this time because your talents and skills have a chance to be showcased or put in the limelight. So on the 9th, we've got the Sun sextiling Uranus from your 10th house. So this is good for new activities. If you've found that you've had problems in the workplace that need a fresh perspective or a novel approach, this is a very good energy for tackling those things. You'll have a lot of clarity. You're feeling restless and energetic. So this is where the day where you want to mix up routines. So don't do things in the same old boring way. So on the 10th, we've got Mercury sextiling Venus from your 10th to your 12th houses, and this is good for light-hearted, leisurely pursuits. But because this is happening in your career sector, this can also be good for creative projects or having discussions with bosses. So, also for more creative work. So on the 11th of February, we've got the full moon lunar eclipse happening in your 4th house. Now, all full moon lunar eclipses highlight emotional issues, relationship issues, and your 4th house is, of course, that house of family, parents, responsibilities. So things can culminate in such a way that your focus is drawn towards the family, towards home and property concerns, towards your parents potentially, towards domestic affairs. So always that balance between professional and private life, public concerns and private emotional concerns. So very favorable aspects with this full moon between Jupiter, Saturn and Uranus and the Sun and the Moon. So Jupiter, of course, in your 6th house is really helping you in terms of your relationship to colleagues, co-workers, for a general good feeling around the workplace. So maybe making magnanimous gestures in that regard. Saturn, a very stabilizing influence in this eclipse, helping you with budgets, long-range plans, looking at places that you can, or people that you can depend upon for support. The aspects with Uranus will show you integrating changes, so things that, maybe ruffled your feathers a while ago are now being integrated. So you're, the full moon shedding lights on these things and drawing them all together. And of course, with eclipses, the events play out over time. So these things or energies will take a while to settle. But the focus predominantly on home, family, and domestic concerns. So on the 14th, we've got the Sun sextiling Saturn. And this is very good for practical results, and for you this could be around budgets, financial planning, so long-range plans around these things. So this is a more serious focus. You're looking at concrete things that you can do, concrete areas where you're getting support, and so you're very geared towards practical results, and you're using the full extent of your common sense with this placement. So on the 16th, we've got Mercury sextiling Mars between your 10th and your 12th house. And this aspect is good for mental and physical busyness, and for you this could be in the workplace. And so here you want to take some opportunities to take initiative and, to showcase your expertise. It's also a very good placement for standing up for your views and convictions without going too far. On the 20th, we've got Mercury sextiling Uranus, and again, this is a good placement for tackling problems that have frustrated you, especially in the workplace, for a fresh perspective, for learning new skills, disciplines, and studies. So if you may find that this is the time where you want to learn or master some computer skills, potentially technological skills, but definitely this will see you, if you are choosing to study a new discipline, it'll be something that you haven't, tackled before. On the 21st, we've got Mercury trining Jupiter between your 10th and your 6th house. And this is a very favorable placement for business, for commerce, for study and travel. And for you, it's happening in the work houses. So this is very good for future planning, organizing your work and professional affairs. It's also good for buying and selling. So this placement very good for big thinking, for the broader picture and perspective, for abstract thought, but also very good for business and commerce. So in your work houses, it's really going to be favoring that area. So business negotiations, business deals, negotiations, conversations, very good under this placement. So on the 22nd, we've got Mars squaring Pluto from your 12th to your 9th house. And this can be a bit of a dicey placement, especially with Mars feeling very frustrated in the 12th house. So power struggles, disagreements. On the other hand, very favorable for getting a lot of work done behind the scenes. So on the 26th, we've got the new Moon Solar Eclipse happening in your 11th house. And this solar eclipse is really dominated by Neptune. The Sun and the Moon are both conjunct Neptune. So this is the start of a startup of new activities and plans. And with Neptune, it's really going to be about art, philanthropy, creativity. And for you in the 11th house, this is especially going to be about aligning yourself with things, projects or groups that are bigger than yourself. So, really dreaming big, thinking big. And because Neptune can arouse a lot of empathy and compassion, this can be around charitable associations or projects that you want to get involved with. So because Mars is conjunct Uranus during this eclipse, and this is in your 12th house, there can be sudden events or losses even that precipitate a slight change of direction or challenges that come in. But the challenge is really going to be about keeping grounded. Although these aren't difficult aspects with Neptune, Neptune can often be a bit pie in the sky, so, you may find that your dreams aren't grounded in reality. So you really want to plant your feet firmly on the ground. But of course, that's your forte. So the month ends with Mars opposing Jupiter between your 12th and your 6th house. So this is where you don't want to overextend yourself work-wise. Mars and Jupiter together in opposition can show a lot of surplus energy. So there's a tendency to overextend yourself, overcommit to your own detriment, since the 12th house is involved here. So don't overextend or overcommit in work affairs, take on more than you can chew, because this transit at the beginning will have a lot of physical energy, but later on you'll have to deal with the ramifications of the things that you committed to, and you'll have to see it through. So anyway, just tone it down and don't take on too much work-wise, because your health could suffer. If you've enjoyed this forecast, please like and subscribe, and thanks so much for listening.